Let me take this opportunity in warmly welcoming Chairman of the International Island Games Association, Mr. Jorgen Peterson, to Bermuda, who is to my immediate right. And indeed, a great big thank you to Mr. John Beard, to the far right, who's the chairman of the Bermuda Island Games Association here in Bermuda, and also who is not currently present today, but is here in Bermuda, and that's Mr. Chuck Milliken, and he's the Games Director for the 13th NatWest Games, and that's the NatWest Island Games 2013. And again, welcome to Bermuda. Bermuda is extremely fortunate in having the opportunity to host this event for the first time on this side of the Atlantic and for the first time in our beloved island. I'm very pleased that the Games will be held here, obviously. The Bermuda government is a major sponsor for the Games, scheduled to be held from July 13th through until July 19th of next year, 2013. Approximately 1,800 athletes are expected to participate in the NatWest Island Games, with a Bermuda team of approximately 200 or more athletes. This will be a dazzling exhibition of sports. 16 events are planned, including athletics, badminton, basketball, cycling, football, golf, gymnastics, sailing, sailboarding, target shooting, squash, swimming, tennis, triathlon, indoor volleyball, and beach volleyball, among those sports that will be competing for. A great deal of planning and associated preparations have already begun to ensure that the Games are well facilitated and indeed the ultimate success we all envision here in Bermuda as the host country. The International Island Games were founded in the Isle of Man in 1985, and today some 24 member islands participate or are associated with the 9 sovereign nations of Canada, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Greece, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Great Britain, and the Caribbean. Small island nations come together every 2 years to compete in friendly competition in a range of up to 14 sports chosen by the host island from an approved list of 18 sports. Since 1999, NatWest has been the title sponsor for the Island Games, which have become one of the largest international multi-sport events in the world, behind the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics. During the summer of 2008, Bermuda secured its bid to host the NatWest Island Games 2013. Around 2,000 athletes and officials, plus many supporters, are expected to attend this prestigious multi-sports event. Bermuda's first appearance in the Games was in 2003 in Guernsey. In the 5 biennial Games in which Bermuda has competed, we have sent over 700 athletes and won more than 100 medals. On behalf of the government and the people of Bermuda, I wish all the athletes good luck participating in this exciting event, and I strongly encourage all residents to come out and support our local and overseas athletes next year when we will host the Island Games, the NatWest Island Games, as our Bermudan athletes, I'm sure, will be going for gold again.
I certainly hope so.
And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our local chairperson of the organizing committee, Mr. John Beard.
Currently, we have representatives from the majority of the islands here. They're looking at venues. We've started the venues today. We've been at the Spanish Point. We were at Barclay. We've been to the tennis stadium, Cedar Bridge, and the group are currently on their way to the National Sports Centre. Everybody has been overwhelmed, stunningly impressed with our facilities. The people who are going to run the games, the sports, have been there at each of these venues and have answered all of the questions professionally, and I think it's one of our great strengths that we're used to putting on high-level sports events. And so these are not issues for us. So far, touch wood, everything's been going well, and hopefully over today and tomorrow we can show the delegates what Bermuda can really offer, and then this time next year we can put on a games that we're all going to be stunningly proud of, and games that we hope will really pull the island. I'm pleased to have with me a gentleman who I first met when we applied to join the Games in the Isle of Man. He was the young man on the executive at the time. He's now The chairman of the International Island Games, Jørgen Petersen, is from the island of Åland, where we had the games just a couple of years ago. Jørgen at that time was a budding journalist and was quite happy to argue the point, as I'm sure many of those of you in front of me do. And he's now a politician, so obviously he no longer argues the point, but is very quiet and careful about what he said. But I'll hand him over to Jørgen Petersen.
Thanks very much, John, Minister. It's a pleasure to be here. And on behalf of the International Island Games Association, I must say thank you to John for all his hard work in taking part in our games, because the ethos of what we do is to bring in context in the island life. Islanders are a little bit special, I would presume, I would say, and they are very good at what they do, but they struggle to reach the national levels from time to time, depending on geographical situation, depending on logistics, and depending on a lot of other things. In the Island Games, which the name was from 1985, we suddenly had something to look forward to. And we could tell the young islanders that if you keep trying, you will get there. You will become a member of an international family, although you will not perhaps be world class. We are world class today. Competition-wise, we are world class. Our results is maybe not world class, although many of them are. In the Olympics later on this summer, we will have quite a few athletes who started their career at the NatWest Island Games. That is the rewarding part of the work that we do within the International Island Games Association. And in order to do that, you need diversity. We want to present games where youngsters come in and where they meet other youngsters from other parts of the world, and they can actually see that they are not that different from themselves. But in order to do that, we need islands and people who are willing to take responsibility for this to happen, because nothing happens automatically. And therefore, ever since 2001, when I first met John, we saw immediately that this is an island who want to be a part of an association and who want to take responsibility and who want to make a difference. We knew from the very start that Bermuda one day would be there as an organizer of the NatWest Island Games. And that didn't happen the first time, which isn't actually surprisingly. It is in fact exactly what we want from our athletes. We want them to lose a lot before they start to win, because that creates characters. If you start as a winner, it's very hard to move on from that. So you have to do a little bit of losing before you win. And John and his team went through that. They tried to get the games earlier, but they lost in a bidding fight towards Isle of Wight. They did not give up. They came back and they were stronger, and they had an even better team on board, and they have even better solutions. So thank you for that. Thank you for doing what we demand from our sports people. We want them to try a little bit harder and to become a little bit better. And that is why we're organizing the NatWest Island.
Occasionally we hear a sport or a country, for financial reasons, as having trouble coming to the games. We are an expensive island. We're making major changes and financial support to make sure this thing works, but obviously it's a headache. Is it going to spoil the turnout, do you think, before it's all over?
No, I don't think so. What will happen is that people will make it here in one way or the other. It might not be the numbers that we had as we had in the NatWest Island Games in Isle of Wight, because Isle of Wight is geographically closer to the rest of them. But I have no doubt that the games next year will be a great success. Especially in times where finance is low. That will happen over the years. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not that good. Especially at times when we're low, I think that sport is more important than ever, because that actually shows people that you can make a difference. And it doesn't matter whether you're poor or rich when it comes to run 100 meters. So in a sense, I do think that it's more important than ever, and I'm quite confident that the islands will make it here.
Can I add to that, Brian? I take your point on. One of the points is that the deadline for teams to make a decision is December of this year. So I think Jorgen and I were talking just earlier, by having the delegates here, it doesn't matter what photographs we send, doesn't matter what we put on a website, until they can actually see what they've got. And one of the great advantages for us was finding Cedar Bridge being amenable to turn Cedar Bridge into dormitories. And that's making a big difference, obviously, for us in terms of being able to find cheaper accommodation.
Having most of the events up at the National Stadium aid in them being able to go see other things that, as a positive. I mean, from the other island games, I don't know how spread out the venues were.
It is a unique, Bermuda is unique in that everything is that close to each other. It has never happened before that as many sports has been in a walking distance. And when the delegates see that, I'm quite sure that they will also, that will be one of the arguments for this going to be a great games. Because you will have in fairness like 6 different sports, 7 maybe, in a walking distance. And that's really something that has, I doubt that it's never happened, that it has ever happened before.
I also think one of the other really exciting things for us is that we'll have, for I believe probably the first time, I don't think there's anything else planned prior to our new National Aquatic Center being completed. So by July next year, everything should be tested. If there are any kinks or quirks, that should all be worked out, because the projected timeline for the completion of that wonderful facility at the National Sports Center is by the end of this year. So we'll have at least about 7 whole months to really ensure that the facility lives up to what we expect it to be in all areas of consideration. It's a wonderful facility, it's on time, and I'm very, very pleased with the progress so far. The workmanship with those that are guest workers is stellar, and equally as good is the local tradesmen that have been on that job from the very beginning in putting themselves with the skill sets that they have as tradesmen to ensure that we have a first-class facility that we could be proud of and showcasing to the world, which I believe is going to help with that facility becoming recognized as a venue of choice for sports tourism. So we'll obviously be continuing our liaisoning with the Ministry of Tourism to ensure that those facilities and the amenities that will be provided at our National Sports Center will be effectively promoted through our public relations exercise globally, so that we can attract athletes